Good afternoon. Welcome to Defy Hackers, Buy with Confidence, Bank Online with Authority. Oh, too loud? Okay. Just give us a few minutes here. We get our audio tweaked in just right. Shall I keep talking randomly, Jim? How's that sound? Sorry, everybody in Adobe land, that we just blasted your ears out with that. Okay. Jen, you're going to put the presentation up? Okay. And we'll get started here in just a second or two. Okay, we have a few people coming into the room here at University Park. We'll let them get settled and we'll get started then. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mike Leach from Security Operations and Services, a unit of information technology here at Penn State. My principal job is helping to protect our online credit card activity and assisting our merchants in meeting compliance requirements for data security. Thank you for coming out today or joining us through a meeting at Penn State to learn more about online transactions. In today's Security Series presentation, we'll provide you with some information to help you make better decisions about online banking, purchases, and sales. While our intent is to raise your awareness, not all risk can be eliminated, so please continue to bank, buy, or sell online with caution and skepticism. Think before you click. There's no single thing that will protect you online. We can apply layers of defense that if one or two fail, 3 or 4 can buy you time to protect yourself. We'll review some common exploits so you can recognize them and avoid them when possible. We'll also explore established payment options, compare them to new payment options, and look at the risk to your money when you're using them. We do have time for Q&A built into the presentation, so please interrupt with your questions. Raise your hand here in the room or use the chat function online. In February, Ed Smiley covered social media and some key password issues. If you missed that session, you can review it from the SOS webpage under Training and Awareness Security Series. We won't go deep into passwords today, but I want to stress online financial accounts must have unique, strong passwords that are not shared with social media or other accounts. Why unique? Unique in 2 senses. First, not using common words. According to Trustway's 2013 Global Security Report, the top 100 baby boy names are used in about 20% of passwords. The top 100 dog names are used in about 17% of passwords, and the top 100 baby girl names are used in 12% of passwords involved in investigative data loss events. With 3 well-known and published lists, we've hit about 50% of passwords involved in compromise events. If your passwords include these categories, then some or all of your password is well known too. A strong password has generally come to be defined by Microsoft domain password requirements of 7 to 8 characters minimum, a mix of upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. But a password that meets most of the requirements for strong, like hello to you, can still be weak. If you modify that with substitution, the second hello to you is strong and complex, but not so complex you can't remember it. If you create some personal rules about how you use substitution to make a password complex, it will help you create and recall your passwords. Use things like Z instead of 2, an exclamation point instead of an L, substitute a lowercase g for the number 9. You get the idea. I don't want to give away all my good secrets. You have to come up with some of your own. Some systems do not allow longer passwords or special characters. You should always create a password as complex as the system will allow, or steer away from those weaker systems. For longer length, consider a simple passphrase where the first letter of each word in a phrase is used or substituted to generate a password. For example, taking the first character in each word of the phrase, "Now's the time for all good men to come to the aid of their country," yields a string of text. With some personal substitution rules, the second string of text yields characters that are easy to remember, but long and complex as a password. Now let's look at some metrics around these 4 different passwords we've just covered to better understand how length and complexity protect you. You can search the web for various password generators or strength testing tools. Depending on your views, these can be good or bad tools. Some of them actually will collect the password you're typing in, so in some cases you're giving up your good, strong password that they may use against you. So just be careful when using things like this. This particular tool isn't a strength tester, but it provides a time-based indication of how long it would take to search the haystack for your particular password needle. Taking a look at Hello to You, the first simple version of that, we see it could be learned in a little over a century via an online attack of 1,000 guesses per second, in 36 seconds with a brute force attempt of 100 billion guesses per second, or less than 4/10 of a second, 4/100 of a second, by someone who really wanted to get into your account using the computing power to generate 100 trillion guesses per second. I know those are some large numbers and fast password guessing, but that is what you're facing with your system or your service connected to the internet or in the hands of a determined attacker. And by in the hands, I mean in their physical possession or under their control. Some of these tools can be installed remotely and executed right on the same systems that you're logging into, such as your service provider's own machines. For now, just focus on the time value in the right column as we move on to the other examples. If we mix it up with some substitution and add a special character, those times jump to 2,000 centuries, 18 hours, and over a minute. Then if we take the longer 16 lowercase characters, we can get 14 billion centuries, 144 centuries, or 14.42 years. Now you can feel a little safer if your account is targeted. Okay, Jen has a question from the internet.
Yes, we have a question from Adobe Connect. It is obviously a risk to keep written passwords or save them on your computer. Is there any safe way to save passwords if you are worried about forgetting them, especially because you recommend that financial accounts use different passwords other than your regular accounts?
Generally, we do not recommend that you write down passwords, and in that sense, we're talking about the passwords you use here at Penn State. Your access account password at the university is a key to a lot of services. Just about every service at the university relies on that. So that's one that you should take the time to be careful and remember. But if you do write it down, make sure it's stored away in a safe location. I'm talking locked up somewhere in a safe. Put it in an envelope and seal it. That way, if you notice that the envelope is open, you know somebody has your password, so you need to change it. For multiple accounts for social networking and home, that's where I recommend using a common phrase and then tweaking it to that particular social network or banking, using the social network's initials, the bank's initials. Have a general password that you can add things onto, little keys like that. If you do want to store your passwords in some manner, there are electronic devices and services to do that. Again, they have risks. You're putting all of your eggs in one basket. Some are better than others. I don't have any real recommendations. I don't use one of those myself, and there are many of them out there. Just take the time to explore them, read about them, see what other people are saying about them, and like everything else, use it at your own risk, and just be careful and monitor all of your accounts. Okay. And then we'll move on. Oh, some questions in the room. Carla? Go, just ask and I'll repeat for you.
Are a alpha string. It is not a word. It means non-feminine. It is mixed or lower case. Then all I do is I here add sort of 8 time capacity so that I can't miss by very much. Is that wrong? Weak?
Okay.
That works for me.
Yeah. I'll just reflect, one of the participants in the room mentioned that they have sets of passwords for work, social media, and financial accounts, and are using an alphanumeric string that they rotate certain numeric characters that make sense to them throughout that string as they change their passwords over time. And asking if that was weak, strong, makes sense, or whatever. Yes, that's pretty much what you want to do. Something that is pure gobbledygook to me. If you look at this particular phrase up here that we have on the screen right now, you really wouldn't be able to decipher what that means right off the top of your head, but I know exactly what it says. So it is recognizable to me, but it's not really recognizable to other folks. And then, like I said, if you rotate some numerical values through that, you just want to be careful you're not using your address, your room, locations, birth dates, anniversaries, things like that, common dates. But again, and the point I'm making here, the length is what really protects you. But it's helpful to be longer. Shorter can be good if they are complex. And was there another question in the rear of the room? Okay. So then finally, the last passphrase with the mix of upper lowercase, special characters, and the length. We go from 14.4 million trillion centuries. What's a comparative number to that? When the national debt's going to be paid off? Online fast attack scenario, 141 billion centuries, and a massive cracking array at 141 million centuries. So it's fairly easy. We went from a few seconds in the first slide with the hello to you up to millions of centuries of search time. Now this isn't a guarantee of protection. I could hit the lottery and guess this password first, right? And get it initially right there. But longer length and complexity makes the password harder to guess than just using the word password. Okay. Two-factor authentication, if one is good, two are better. Well, in addition to your unique and complex password, some sites will use a second authentication factor to verify you or you. In security parlance, this is something you know and something you have. You know your password, and you have a token, a fingerprint, a retinal scan, some other biometric that in combination are used to log you into a system. In addition to these items, the site may send an SMS or text message to your phone to help you log in. As you can imagine, this extra step will increase the expense and complexity of authentication, but it will increase the assurance that you are you, as long as you don't leave your token lying about with your password post-it note stuck onto it, or lose your unlocked phone with all your account IDs and passwords. Two-factor authentication is not in widespread use in general consumer services, but it is available for some services as an option, sometimes with a fee, and becoming more common. Most of us will be working at home when we're buying and selling things, so your home connection to the internet needs to be protected like the network here at Penn State is. I'm sure most of you have moved from dial-up to cable modem or DSL. Most of the equipment provided with those services or purchased by you has default passwords that are well known. These must be changed. Do a little searching on Google to find out how, or ask your family geek for some help. You probably have wireless turned on. If you don't have security enabled, your neighbors are using your bandwidth and they can look into the files on your computer. The wired side isn't safe if your wireless is not secure. You want to use a firewall to shield your computers from the internet and enable security on the wireless to protect the inside of your network. Also use antivirus software on all machines. Penn State provides Symantec for all faculty, staff, and student computers. Microsoft Security Essentials is available for Windows platforms. There are other paid and some free antivirus softwares out there as well. Consider using separate computers for online transaction. The machine little Johnny uses to play Halo 3 online is exposed to more risks and may not be the best platform to use for online banking. Certainly you want to use limited accounts most of the time. This will help prevent malware from executing. If you're out at the local coffee shop and want to jump on the wireless network, understand it's an open, shared network, and others can most likely observe your online activity. I do not advise conducting online business via the open network. Even worse are random ones you may find. Some of those are set up just to capture your data, but may look like ones you use every day. Be suspicious of the wireless network PSU when you're not near a university building. I know it can be a pain, but you need to keep all your computers up to date with operating system updates and patches. antivirus updates and application updates and patches. Most software is getting better about automatically checking for patches and applying them, but the update, or they set a warning flag for you. Don't ignore those flags. We covered in the previous slide, you need a firewall for your network. You should also enable a firewall for your computer. A software firewall is included with current versions of Windows and Mac OS X. Computer accounts can be set as admin or limited. The admin account should be used for installation and maintenance, and the limited account should be used for general activity. This is known as least privilege. The idea being, if you lose control of your limited account, major changes can't be made to your system. On the other hand, if I have your admin account, I can make your machine, my machine, much easier. Windows Vista 7, 8, along with Microsoft OS X, do provide user account control, whereby your admin account will not execute admin level activities such as installations of software without prompting and approval if you have that configured properly. If you choose to use this feature, understand what you're doing and what you're approving to run. I would still recommend a limited account for kids or anyone you don't want to make system changes on your machine. And a quick review of what we covered so far. You're using a longer and complex password. Maybe you've added a second factor. You've changed default passwords and enabled security on your network. Your computer software is up to date. You're practicing least privilege by running limited accounts. Congratulations, we can now access the internet. Before we go there, any questions on what we've covered so far? And Jen, if you would go ahead and get ready for the poll for web browsers. Looks like we have something coming in from the internet as well here. Jen is putting up a poll on web browsers, and we'll get to Tina's question as soon as this is over. In the room here, we'll just go manually on this. Who in the room prefers to use Internet Explorer? Okay, 2 of those. And Safari for our Mac users out there. Okay. And Firefox. Okay. Chrome. Opera. Wow, no Opera users. Dolphin. And any other browsers. You don't need to call it out, but just raise your hand if you. Okay. So it looks like we're up there with Firefox and Chrome being some of the more popular ones. And Jen? Is this Tina's question?
We have a question from Adobe Connect about the presentation and whether it'll be available to print after today.
Yes, that will be available. The presentation, the recording will be put online after it's run through a service to provide the audio captioning, and the materials will be available online as well. And you guys, can you expand that window, Jen, so we can see that a little better? Or is all the information there? I guess you can read off what, you can see what's there. Folks in the room and out on the internet. Okay. Just curious, there's not one that's really much better or worse than the other. There are different ones that have different vulnerabilities at different times, but the more modern browsers have kind of gotten the idea that they're the key to the internet, and a lot of vulnerabilities can be found in them, so they are getting much better and they are more reliable. One of the headaches is constant updates. You do need to be updating and running the current version of whatever your browser is. Some of those you have to manually update. Some will update automatically. Some don't update until you restart them. So I'm a person, I leave my computer on at home almost all the time, let it go into sleep or hibernate. It doesn't get shut down, nothing gets restarted, so sometimes things don't get updated as frequently as they should. So just, if you do that, remember to restart things every once in a while to get things going again. And back to the presentation, Jen. Okay. And then leading into the browser, we'll talk about that. If you could, for a moment, imagine Andy Rooney. Remember when you had to have client software for every different thing? Well, now the web browser has become a common platform for access to all types of systems. Social media, online stores, online search engines, banking, classes, network management are all accessed via the web browser today. And there are more than 2 browsers available, as you've just seen in our poll, and more folks are using different ones. They all pretty much work the same. They all follow some standards on content delivery and presentation. They'll automatically call up other applications to help display documents or spreadsheets. They'll play audio or video files for you. While it makes for an enriched web experience, all of that interaction can be leveraged for evil. I think I went one too far there. There we go. The applets or plugins a browser uses to provide that rich web experience like Flash, Java, Shockwave are coded or written to enable that interoperability. Security was overlooked at best or put in as an afterthought, so vulnerabilities are constantly being discovered. If you turn them off, the web becomes broken because things don't run automatically. If you want to keep them on, you must keep them updated and patched. Even then, known vulnerabilities may exist for days, weeks, or months before patches are released. It gives me headaches to remember what plugins need updated when on which of my machines. Fortunately, some tools exist to help you keep those updated. One of them is Browser Check by Qualys. Just go to browsercheck.qualys.com and you can run a quick check of that particular web browser, or if you choose, you can install another, yes, you guessed it, plugin to do a more comprehensive scan. And Jen, we have a question?
Yes, we have a question that came in through Adobe Connect. Is the tool spelled correctly?
BRO. Yes, you are correct. A typo does exist. So they'll spell browser in the common English language, and then you will get there. Sorry about that. Is that the same thing, Carla, that you had?
Yeah.
Okay. And while this may be redundant training, is there anyone left on the planet that doesn't understand the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? No need to raise your hands. We're not going to run a poll on this one. But simply the S in HTTPS is for secured, meaning the data stream is encrypted or hidden during transmission. You can look for the lock symbol in the URL bar or sometimes in one of the corners of the browser window to make sure that you have the HTTPS enabled. Not all sites use HTTPS because the encryption has a cost in overhead or complexity during transmission. There's no need to encrypt general search traffic or downloaded news stories, for example, but sites with IDs and passwords to personal accounts should be using HTTPS. Some sites may have it available, but you need to ask for it to be enabled at login, or they may only turn it on when you enter payment data at checkout. Be aware of it. Ask for it anytime you're submitting a password, and especially for banking or payment pages. Normally, your browser will cache or retain a history of your browsing data. This would include URLs you've typed in and connected to, searches, your IDs, passwords, even credit card numbers, address, zip code information. Also, any downloaded files may be stored in a folder on your hard drive. Chrome, Internet Explorer, Firefox, and Safari, other browsers, now include a feature known as private or incognito browsing. When you enable this, a new browser window that does not retain that cached information will open. This is especially helpful during financial transactions, but may be problematic when shopping since your browser search history will not be available later. To activate the in-private or incognito, use the key sequence Control-Shift-P in Internet Explorer and Firefox, or Control-Shift-N in Chrome. In Safari, go up to the upper left corner and select Private Browsing. This will generate a new window with the in-private or incognito indicator that I have circled there in red. Note, these are not foolproof methods to hide or erase your internet tracks, but one more layer in your defense that will help clear out stored information that could be gathered by malware. Also be aware that websites that you visit may retain data about your visit, and incognito browsing will not prevent that. It's only controlling the activity that occurs on your machine. Another thing you can do is set your browser to clear the history on a regular basis after every time you close it or every week, or you can manually clear it once in a while. Google search or quiz your browser's help function to learn how to do that. A new function of some antivirus tools, browsers, and search engines is the ability to warn you before you venture off the well-traveled and generally safe internet into some of the seedy byways of the information highway. If you see warnings like this come up in your browser, read them and heed them. Generally, they will say the site you're going to is known to host malware or known to be dangerous for some reason. You should turn back, but can proceed if you wish. If you should see a warning like this one, typically it will be a separate pop-up window that comes up outside of the browser. Use extreme caution. These warnings are more dire, intended to invoke your fight or flight response to override reason and logic. There will be an indication of some malware threat, but it doesn't look exactly like the warnings that you get from your antivirus software. It invites you to just click here to solve the problem. Again, don't click. Sometimes even clicking the little X to close that window can cause it to take action. It will start a chain of telling you you have this or that threat, and you need to keep paying to have it removed. It's best to close out of the browser, shut down the machine, and start over. If you get it again, don't go back to that site. Again, just think before you click. Read what the warnings are saying. I know sometimes they're difficult to understand. They're designed to trick you, but just be familiar with them and do the best you can to avoid those things. If you've bought something online that is in contention or limited supply, such as tickets, you've probably encountered a CAPTCHA device. While not a security tool, they do help in blocking automated activity that can prevent you from buying. Imagine I want to buy 100 Bob Seger tickets the day they are released. Of course, I'm going to share them out with 99 of my closest friends. I'm not going to sell them on the internet to make a profit or anything. I could sit there and do that, or I could force my kids to help me resell or help me buy those tickets. But it would be much easier if I just wrote a program that automatically did that for me. Because the displayed text isn't easily read by a machine, it serves as a human operator checking tool. They can be defeated if they aren't complex enough in display, or guessed if the random factor can be predicted. They're also difficult to read for some people. Like other protections, CAPTCHA is evolving to meet today's threats and need. Various techniques in the text display are used to foil machine reading. The randomness is greater, and tools have been added to reload the new CAPTCHA or play an audio CAPTCHA if visual elements are not working. How do hackers gain control of your machine or your account? Most of the time, you unwittingly give it to them. Phishing or using a crafted email designed to get you to give up your account credentials is a common method to harvest passwords. Have you seen these emails? Typically they have poor grammar or word usage, but they are getting gooder. If you don't recognize the poor grammar, you may have been fish bait. Also, there will be a threat of loss or closure of your account or a promise of some great reward with these emails. Urgency and action is implied. Respond immediately. Don't be left out. They're just trying to get you to react without thinking and consider what is really going on. Then there's always, usually the helpful link. Just click here to fix this and give me your account data. Attachments claiming to be funny videos or wacky pictures or Office files that are updated can disguise malware. When you click on them, you may see a picture, but in the background, the malware is installing. If you're running with admin privilege, you've opened the front door to the hacker and you've installed the software for them. Another way they get into is you may receive an email from a friend who purports to be in distress. They're on travel and were mugged. They lost their wallet and passport. Now they can't get home. Who wouldn't want to help out a friend as quickly as possible and wire them some money at a random hotel in Nigeria? These same exploits can be adopted for use through instant messaging and social media. If you think it looks hokey, press pause and inspect it deeper. Verify requests from a friend via another means. Call them on their cell phone. Check in with them at the hotel where they're staying. Now check directly with the service provider in the warning. Don't rush to open unexpected attachments. Call the sender to verify what they sent. Some other common exploits are scareware or fake AV, as characterized by offers to scan your machine. Remember this pop-up warning from a few slides ago? They're designed to get you to react before you think. As I said earlier, sometimes clicking to close them will activate them. It's best to close out the browser and reboot. There are malicious websites out there. Some of them are known, some of them aren't. Just browsing to a compromised website can introduce you to malware. You don't have a lot of protection here. Sometimes your AV software will block it. Sometimes your browser may know the website is compromised. Sometimes it could be a trusted Penn State website and you don't have a clue. Out-of-date or unnecessary plugins. Again, keep them updated so they're less likely to be exploited, or turn them off if they're not in use. Elevate your security settings in your browser setup. See the help button or search for tips on how to do that. Free downloads and shareware are often a vector for malware. Only download from well-known reputable hosts like CNET Central or SourceForge, or go to that directly to the vendor to get that particular software. Even then, you're taking a risk. A more complex attack is the man in the middle, where an attacker gains control of your web connection and sits between you and your service, reading or collecting everything that goes by. This may be an actual person, or it could be a machine configured to do that. Sometimes you get a warning about certificates or server names not matching. Read those and consider the risk of proceeding. Often, this is an invisible attack, more likely to occur on wireless, especially public wireless. The common theme here is that they want you to take an action that will enable them to take advantage of a weakness in your system. Think before you click, keep your patches and AV up to date, run with least privilege. Another way to protect yourself is to know where you're going and what to expect from host sites. When you become accustomed to the look and feel of the website, even subtle changes should be visible and raise your caution level. Don't click URLs, even in emails that you know are good. Type them in or use known good bookmarks. And at this point, I'm thinking everybody should know if they just run their cursor over a hyperlink in an email, it will display the actual URL that things are going to. Many times you'll see that those two things do not match. Sometimes it may be okay. We had the email from HR about going and getting your background checks completed. It was similar to that. But most of the time, those things are dangerous, and you shouldn't click on them. Also, become familiar with your banking website and the login process. I have one particular credit card that I log into, and for whatever reason, they require me to click the login button twice. It's annoying, but that's how their website operates. If that ever changes, it's going to raise my suspicion, make me think twice about where I'm going or what's going on. Be suspicious of changes. If you notice something off, check the URL. Make sure you went to the right location, that you didn't mistype something and you hit a site that looks almost like that site, that's spelled almost like the site should be. Close your browser, log in again. If it really bugs you, call your bank at a number that you already have. Don't take the number off a page that you think may be a compromised page. Okay, one more review. We've gotten pretty well through here. Keep your browser and all plugins update and current. Heed warnings, but beware of false warnings. Don't be fish bait. Seek alternative verification if you're not sure. Know the look and feel of the financial websites you frequent. Any questions on anything we've covered to this point? Okay. Jen, we have the next poll for online buying. Again, as Jen goes through the online setup here, I'll talk you through this one. I'm just trying to gauge people's online activity. So if you're in the category of you never leave your house, you kind of buy everything online, show hands in the room. Okay, good. We got some people that can learn some things. How about folks that buy some things online? Okay. And folks that buy a few things? Okay. And I rarely or never buy things online. Okay. Very good. Yep. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's so good. Good. There was a request to repopulate the poll results. Apparently, it did not display correctly. Okay. Okay, so you can see that most folks are in the middle. You know, some or few. There was a question in the room: what's the difference between some or few? It's your objective category, whatever you feel you rated yourself at. Just the idea is that we don't have power shoppers here, but a lot of folks are buying things online. So if you want to shop online, you want to shop at a reputable merchant. Read the merchant product and merchant reviews as well as the product reviews to learn what experiences others have had with the merchant and their products. Some of those you have to take with a grain of salt. If somebody gets upset, they can go on a rant, and it may just be particular to that one person and not the whole site. But over time, you can get a sense of how a particular merchant's operating and if you want to spend any of your money there. Just like a physical store that you walk into, you want to understand shipping, back orders, and return policies. Not every online merchant takes returns. If they do, many expect you to pay the shipping. The lowest price may not be the lowest cost. When you look at shipping, sales, or use tax and limited return options, you may want to consider a better merchant with a higher price. And don't overlook local merchants. They're part of our community too. If you can order it, chances are they can order it and provide you the satisfaction of buying locally. However, shopping online usually provides you a broader inventory selection delivered to your home. Finally, when you check out, don't be surprised to be redirected to another site to enter your payment information, especially with smaller merchants. This is a normal business practice. In fact, we do the same thing with many of our Penn State merchants here. And we'll jump into another poll real quick on selling online. For the folks in the room, anybody thinks Craigslist should be named after them because they sell so many things? Okay, looks like we're in the median here again. Anybody sell things regularly? Instead of having yard sales, you might get rid of stuff, every week or a couple times a month. Okay. People have sold a few things. Okay. And I've never sold anything online. Okay, that seems to be the majority in the room here. And Jen, have the broadcast results out there, right? Okay. Do you want to go ahead and get Tracy's question there? I can see that. Question from the internet, thoughts on PayPal. We will cover that in a few minutes here whenever we get into payment methods. I think it's great. It's a nice way to conduct a transaction with unknown parties. You have a intermediate party in the middle that's helping broker that transaction. And it can involve credit cards. It may be tied to an account. It may just be your PayPal account. But it's one of those alternative payments that has sprung up with the onset of things like eBay or Craigslist. It can be used outside of those systems for many other functions as well. So I don't have any problems using it. It's like anything else. Just be careful. It's a financial account. You want a good secured password. Just be aware of what you're doing whenever you use it. Okay. All right, we'll talk a little bit about selling online, some tips here. And in this sense, we're talking about the casual seller, pretty much what we have in the room and online here. We're not talking about someone that's running a complete web store out there. You want to use well-known sales sites like eBay, Craigslist, Etsy, or Pennswoods. That's a local online classified ads company that operates here in the center region. Consider niche sites or customized sites if you have a craft or product that fits. Use protected methods for payment. We just talked about PayPal a little bit, and we'll cover some more of those in the next slide. You do want to get paid before shipping, and really that's the only protection you have, that you're using some system to get that money under your control before you ship the product out. Don't operate outside of the site, particularly in eBay. If you start emailing outside of the eBay system, those site protections that are involved with ePay for the buyer and the seller will not apply. You also want to be on the lookout for, quote-unquote customers saying they'll overpay you if you do them some sort of favor. Ship it now without receiving payment, take a check, or perform some other service. Generally, that's someone that's trying to scam you. Just ignore them. You put your product up for sale, you came to a price, and sell it for that price and the shipping, and be done with it. Don't get too deep into it here. And lastly, be a good netizen. Be honest and truthful in your descriptions. Be prompt with shipping, and respond to customer inquiries. Okay. In a face-to-face transaction, you can exchange payment directly. Even at a store, at a yard sale, you meet somebody across town and you're just selling a lawnmower, that sort of thing. But when buying and selling online, you need a trust partner to transfer those funds between the two parties. Traditionally, this was done with a credit card or debit card using standard merchant services. Credit and debit cards are governed by two different federal regulations. Depending on how your debit card is used, differing industry requirements on processing the payment may apply. From my viewpoint, the key difference between the two is the credit card is their money and the debit card is your money. If my credit card's compromised and thieves run up all sorts of bills, it's not hurting me. I have to file a report, and I may have to swear that it wasn't me that bought 15,000 or 1,500 iPads and got sent to Somalia, but it's not my money. I don't have to worry about it. Now, I won't have to pay for those stolen products. But if my debit card is compromised and thieves buy expensive things, that money comes straight out of my account. If I'm not watching my account, suddenly checks start bouncing and my bills aren't paid. And again, just like the credit card, I can file a report and swear that it wasn't me, and usually I won't have to pay that money, but I have to wait for the bank to do their investigation and replace that money. Many of them may take up to 2 weeks to do that. Some could take longer. If I've bounced any checks, I have to make things right with those folks. I may or may not recover those costs. So I will only shop with a credit card. My debit card is rarely used, and I keep an eye on my accounts with online banking. If your sale is local, the transaction in cash is acceptable if you're comfortable with the amount. Checks can bring the greatest risk in private transactions. There's almost no protection, and deposits can be held until they clear or retracted if they don't clear. With modern software and inexpensive printers, high-quality printers, the ability to commit fraud is simple. Some alternative payment methods have sprung up with new mediums for exchange. New payment methods have emerged, and some older ones have taken on renewed life. Prepaid cards from merchants or major card brands and gift cards for specific stores are becoming popular. PayPal operates as a trusted proxy to exchange funds between parties. This can be via an email address and just the PayPal account, or it can be backed up with a credit card or direct account access to your checking account. Typically, this will have a lower cost than credit card processing for smaller merchants, but trust and reliability are high. Another attraction of PayPal is, folks don't have to have a credit card to use it. So if a lot of folks out there don't want to get a credit card, may not be able to get a credit card, as long as they can maintain an email account and a checking account, they can use PayPal and buy and sell online just like everyone else. With Google Checkout and similar services, shopping cart services like that, anyone can become a web merchant and offload credit card processing to Google for a fee. Some merchants may accept payment or donations via an SMS or text message. Typically, these charges will appear on your phone bill. They can be problematic since the consumer recognition of the charge 1 to 2 billing cycles later can lead to confusion. E-wallets will store all of your payment methods on your smartphone or mobile device. It's somewhat like putting all your eggs in one basket. Like we talked about earlier, the whole password storage thing. You want to choose a good service provider if you elect to do this. Then consumer confusion and distrust of radio frequency identification and near-field communications has led to slow adoption of these newer technologies. While providers claim they are safe, opponents claim they are easily compromised. As the technology matures, adoption should increase. And then Square, Intuit, PayPal, and others offer credit card devices to small merchants for mobile devices. This innovation is being driven by a niche market, typically the small merchant, the mom-and-pop shops, the craft sales, things like that. I would question a major retailer using one of these devices, but have no problem swiping my credit card, again, not my debit card, at a craft show or yard sale. There are risks of the online transaction being compromised, but the alternative could be paper records, which may be more easily lost, or an expensive solution that raises my cost. And it looks like we have something from the internet here. See, many people at PSU use PNC Bank, which offers the virtual wallet. Can you discuss a little bit more about how these work and the related risks? The virtual wallet, it's somewhat similar to the e-wallet, depending on how the phraseology or terminology goes. But it is something, depending on how they're created, that your payment tool is somehow stored online, and you provide either the actual payment device, whether it's a card number or account number, or a proxy or token for that particular account number that's used only once. And in this case, PNC Bank being the example, takes that token or proxy that's really useless anywhere else, and they convert that to the payment instrument, whether it's your account number or credit card number, and then pass that payment through. Those are some of the tools that banks have come up with to still keep, their hands in your pockets, basically. They want you to use their services, but still feel safe and reduce their risk and fraud when you use those. Okay. Any questions in the room? Okay, and before we move on, we have another, I think this is our final poll on online banking. And for the folks in the room, anybody use online banking just to monitor your accounts, keep track of your funds? Okay. And how about using it for bill pay and things like that? Okay. And then any with it, both monitor the online accounts and use the bill pay. Okay. And anyone just like stand in line at the bank and the post office? We have a few diehards out there. Okay. Okay. Question from meeting at PSU. How is my check card that is a Visa card protected when it's actually my money and not the credit card company money, since they tell me to use it as a credit card and not as a debit card? The branded debit cards, by that I mean a debit card that's issued by your bank, has a Visa, MasterCard, or whatever one of the major card brand logos on it. Although it can be processed as a credit card, it's only being processed through the credit card network. Here at the university, we don't take debit cards. So if somebody wants to use their debit card, they have to use their debit card as a credit card. The funds still come out of your checking account. So it's still a case of, even though you're using a credit card, you are actually using a debit card as the base instrument, and those funds come out of your checking account, so it's your money that's still at risk. I would have the same issue with a debit as credit as I would have using a straight debit card. The additional protection with that, the debit card you're using that typically has a PIN. If you're running it as a credit card, you do not use the PIN. So somebody could swipe your physical card or copy your card data, and use that as credit out there on the internet. And it looks like we have one more. I have a Wi-Fi connection for my home computer. What do I need to do in order to place orders from online merchants safely? There are a lot of things that you should do depending on what level your network is. As I mentioned earlier on, you do want to have that firewall, some device that protects you and blocks the internet from just having direct access to your machines. Then you want to have the security enabled on the wireless side so that two things, the traffic is encrypted and some sort of password or filtering list so that only your known computers can connect to the network. If you live out in the middle of the woods, it may not be an issue, but here in town, in the suburban neighborhoods, if you turn on wireless, you're going to be seeing 5, 6, 8 wireless signals of all the houses around you. And you can see them, and some of them you'll see are locked and some are not locked. And the ones that are not locked, you can join them pretty easily and just be part of that household, be part of that network. That's what you want to try to do, is block those other folks from connecting to your wireless. So you want to enable the transmission security as well as the access security. It's more detail than I can get into today, but again, check with the equipment provider, your family geek, look, search things on Google. A lot of tutorials out there on how to do those sorts of things. Okay. Okay, then we'll talk about banking online. If you're like me, you have a hard time getting to the bank during the day and don't like standing in line to make a deposit or move some money around. With the cost of fuel, just running errands can be expensive. So use your bank or credit union online services. You can make deposits from your home, mail the checks in. If they're going to the credit union, you can usually stick them in interoffice mail when you get to work the next morning. You can keep an eye on your account balances or shift funds around as needed. The same applies to credit cards and debit cards. You can keep an eye on those accounts and watch them, make sure there aren't any transactions, or be sure that a known transaction has cleared. Most money moves around electronically. You can set up alerts for various situations and monitor the account activity. Use online bill pay to avoid writing checks and spending 50 cents to mail it. Your payment history is logged for review. One-time payments are simpler than writing a check, and recurring payments can be scheduled. Typically, I'll let my bills pile up for 2 or 3 months before I even bother opening them. I know that they're in the bill pay system. They're pretty much the same every month, and I just let that take care of it, and I don't have to have that hassle every month. And by the time they're paid, I typically just look at them, toss them in a shredder, and don't worry about it. If I get out of hand or let it get over too much, they will get in touch with me and let me know that I'm underpaid on something. But generally, that doesn't happen. You want to use reputable companies. It's real nice to have it. If it's your local bank, someplace you can walk into, or your credit union where the cost may be a little lower. But you want to know the costs and rules about the bill pay. What's the base cost of the bill pay service? How many bills are you able to pay in a month for that rate? What are the limits on transfers between accounts? And are there any fees applied for the services you're using? Okay. And then getting close to the end here, in summation, we started out looking at strengthening our unique passwords. You may have added a second factor somewhere along the way. We covered some common exploits and reviewed how to avoid them with awareness. Again, those updates of those patches and software. Your antivirus software, you want to make sure that's turned on, firewall turned on. You don't want to be fish bait. We talked a little bit about buying and selling online. We covered some traditional and alternative payment methods. And we talked about online banking to reduce your cost of paying bills, enable you to manage your money on your time. Anything that anyone wants to cover, that's pretty much it for my presentation, but I'm willing to entertain questions on pretty much any topic. Yes, sir, in the back there.
Some trouble with sites in the past, again, where it was very difficult to get them actually charging.
Okay, the question here in the room was recurring charges. You sign up for a particular service and you may get that first month free and you want to cancel it, or you might use them for 2 years and want to cancel it, but the charges keep coming in on your card. About the only thing you can do with that is be persistent. Whenever you call in to cancel it, they should cancel it. Sometimes they don't. I remember AOL used to be very problematic with that. People would drop AOL and a year and a half later discover they had still been billed for it on their credit card and they hadn't noticed it. That's just poor merchant practice. Just keep calling your credit card, keep refuting the charge, refuse to pay for the charge. Eventually, they will stop. If they do it too much as a card processing merchant, they can lose their merchant processing rights. However, just like anything else around here, you lose rights with one service provider, you just move on to another. So they can switch merchant providers out there and get away with it for a while. That's where the online watching your account, watching that activity, you don't have to wait till the end of the month when that statement shows up. If you know they bill you or post that bill on the 10th, you can look at it online, see it right there, and then start calling right away and just keep hammering at them. And it looks like we have a question online here. Why do some links on Penn State pages come to a page with a warning when it's supposed to be a Penn State page? What type of warning, Meredith? I'm not real clear on your question there. See if she comes back to us with that. Oh, okay. Question or a possible answer in the room was it could be some of the warnings about security certificates that aren't updated or corrected. Oh, the warning. Okay, the warning page that I had a sample slide of back earlier. Okay. Sometimes we do get malware on our Penn State web presence. It could be on the your personal pass space. It could be on a departmental site that has become compromised. And if that does occur, that malware is seen on the internet. Google is particularly good about this. Google has the pulse of the internet globally. They see all kinds of traffic going through. In some ways it's kind of scary. In other ways it's kind of good because they are trying to look out for you. They're looking out for their own interests first, but if they can help you spend more time on the web, learn more about you, tweak their marketing dynamics, that's helpful to them. The reason you'll see that at Penn State is, as I mentioned, we will get malware implanted. We may get malicious traffic originating from that site, a lot of traffic going to and from that site, and those sites are flagged, so those warnings will pop up. Connie in the room here offered up about the mismatched certificates. The HTTPS requires a certificate. That's a service that you pay for, and those are good for a certain period of time. If you aren't keeping track of that, those will expire, and you have to renew them. Often that's a seamless process, but if you renew it incorrectly or if you don't renew it in time, the mismatch can occur and an expected response doesn't come back, and that may cause a flag to come up and give that particular warning. And another question, if I'm already taking credit cards by phone and the numbers are processed, accounts receivable is done by PSU, I can set up to take PayPal somehow too. Are you talking about here at the university or in person? At the university. We do not use PayPal as a payment method at the university. One of the biggest headaches with PayPal is that pretty much anybody can set up or apply for a PayPal account, and the funding has to be transmitted into a checking account. The problem is they don't require it to be a university checking account if you are purporting to be a university business. So someone could set up something that looks like a Penn State service and have that money directed into their personal checking account. That is strictly prohibited by our university financial rules, and for that reason we do not use PayPal anywhere for university business. And a question on pop-ups. When you get the pop-up that says your page that you're accessing has some items that are not secure, do you want to display the secure items? Is it okay to say yes? It can be. It depends what it is that you're doing. Usually that's a certificate mismatch error. There could be some small element of the page that's not secure. It can lead you into installing malware. But again, where are you going? Are you doing financial transactions? Are you just doing general web surfing? Are you looking up information? Wikipedia, general news sites, things like that. So everything's kind of a risk balance. You weigh what it is that you're doing against what the risk could be. If you're just searching for information, a lot lower risk level. If you're doing online banking, yes, that would cause me concern. And continuing the question, is there a way to say yes to all or turn off that warning? How non-secure are those items generally? Again, the security level can vary. If you adjust the security settings of your browser, they're set somewhere in the medium area, and you can crank them up a little higher. You may get more of those warnings. If you turn them down a little lower, you can get less of those warnings. But again, your risk varies corresponding to that security level. If you want the internet to be quick and easy and nothing in your way, you're going to get out there and you're going to bump into some things that may cause you headaches or frustrations. If you don't mind a couple warnings once in a while, turn your security settings up, take a look at the warning and keep on moving and don't have to worry too much about it. Okay. And I think someone was just commenting, I think is it Financial Policy 23 that they're talking about, Jen? Is it that last comment? I think that's what it was. Yeah. Just supporting what I was saying about the Penn State policies not allowing PayPal at the university. Oh, Firefox. Oh, okay. Is not going to allow adjusting the security settings. Okay. Yeah, and again, Firefox 23, really? Version 23, that just, okay. How many times does it take you to get it right? Anything else in the room? Anything from the internet? Almost the last chance here. Any questions? Yes, Connie.
I've received emails from other people where all that's in the email is just a link, a URL. And so I know they've been hacked or some form of hacking. I mean, is there anything I can do to help them to protect themselves? I mean, should I have them change the password on their email account, or what do I help them do?
Okay. Question in the room was receiving emails from known contacts where there's just a link in email. It's not a real email from that person. It's some type of compromised email. And if there's anything that you can do to help that person raise their awareness. Suggestion was made, yes, call them and let them know that you've received it and change the password on that particular email account. However, just because their email address is listed as the received from, it doesn't mean it really came from them. That could be fabricated. It's easy to falsify those addresses, just like on an envelope you send through the mail. I can mail something and I can put anyone's return address on it. It doesn't have to be mine, and it can get sent back to that person. Same thing happens with email. But yes, generally their account is compromised in some manner, and they should change their password. So, thank you, Leslie. Okay. Yes, got to plug the next event. The next event on June 26th is data categorization. Is that the, yes, that's the right phraseology. I usually use a different word for that. That's on June 26th. You'll learn how to apply the protections to classes of data that you use here on your job at Penn State. And then that is a general session, just a general awareness session like that one. We also have 2 technical sessions in May. Those are getting fairly popular. Those are more in-depth and aimed at our technical support folks around here. The first one on May 7th is securing databases for web applications. It's one of those areas we've had a lot of problems at the university where easy to stand up a web server and make your information available in public, but people put a database right on that same web server. I knock over your web server, I slurp up all the data in your database, and now we have headaches. So we'll talk about that, helping make that better. Then on May 21st, we'll talk about Microsoft Hyper-V and VDI, or the virtual display security technologies. And that will be, I assume, pretty in-depth and pretty technical. We invite all those folks that want to get involved in that to come on in. Okay. Thank you, Francine. It looks like we got 2 folks typing. Okay. All right, appreciate the thanks. If nobody has any more questions, you are free to go. Thank you.